Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Let's see if we got it going. We had some technical difficulties running with some of our equipment this morning and last night, too. We definitely had an entity, aggressive entity that we had to sage away, as everything is consciousness in this all.
I know we're always speaking to something, someone, an area. I mean, there's forever a conversation going on all around us all the time.
Absolutely. And before we get going, just want to encourage everybody, double check, see if you are subscribed, so you hopefully will get some notifications both to Evolutionary Energy Arts, which is the original channel, and EEARTS. Now that we have Evolutionary again at no strikes, yay, we're going to go back to the original format, which is we're going to try to put most of the news and current events on Evolutionary and the going deeper on EEARTS, as far as digging deeper into the spiritual aspect, digging deeper into what we're doing to basically get ready for what's coming, which we know is going to be massive food shortages, probably some power outages, a lot more chaos. We know what's in store and planned. We do want to thank our supporters over at Patreon, because without you guys over at Patreon, we really couldn't keep going with the channel. And also everybody that's supporting us over at Evolutionary Energy Arts. Please do check out Medicinal Foods. Use coupon code EEA, get a discount. You can find great products that are going to help you detox, and that is a must in these times. And today is a Monday, and I like to fast on Mondays. At least try to get a 24-hour fast in, which is wonderful for basically just giving the body time to get rid of anything that's cancerous, anything that's dis-ease. And do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com as well and learn more about us.
Indeed, and there's a lot to learn.
So we're going to talk about the 7 Hermetic principles, but we're going to also go a little bit off of this and give you personally information that we're channeling and have channeled on Thoth, who was also known in Egypt as Dehute, and also Hermes Mercury. Hermes, thrice great, is supposed to be the author of the Kybalion. And again, a lot of works are channeled works, being that they are inspired from beings that are residing on other densities than 3D. And of course, this is something that has so influenced the Western mystery tradition. Again, the Western mystery tradition had to be a mystery tradition because of persecution in the West by the powers that be. But we can find so much of this in yoga. For instance, Franz Barden, who I've shared with you guys, Franz Barden is a Hermeticist and somebody that practiced the Western mystery tradition. And he wrote a book which happened to be the first book I ever found, kind of, well, you would think by accident. When I was 7 years old, we moved into a house. The house was totally cleared out except for one book in the basement in a corner. And it happened to be Initiation into Hermetics. Crazy, right? Is that just a coincidence?
There are no coincidences. Absolutely. There's a lot of things that happen in our life that guides us, that pulls us, pushes us, gets us to find new understandings, gets us to, press our own beliefs and see where is it we really stand in this life. So, when we run into these little things, like Mike did, and you ask if it's coincidence, no. This was like the blueprint template for his life, and one of the many things that he's doing here in this lifetime, and he's very good at it.
Well, thank you so much, sweetie. And so, we're not going to go through the entirety of the book, but I've talked about it before. But really, what is it? Well, it's Hermeticism, which comes a lot from hidden knowledge, again, in the West that we get out of different sources, including the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, including many different Greek philosophers, Egyptian sources. And ultimately, perhaps it's given to us by very, very intelligent beings on very high densities. And so much knowledge is really in, again, yoga. And when we say yoga, we don't mean, many people will just think of hatha yoga. Yoga means union, and hatha yoga is health or healing yoga. That's good for mind, body, spirit. It is good for the entirety of ourselves. But hatha is more considered with health first and foremost. There are many different disciplines in yoga. There's Kundalini yoga, which is all about activating the life force and achieving higher states of consciousness. There's Raja yoga. Raja yoga is a great place to start and study. I started studying that probably before I was 12. And it's called royal yoga also because it's complete. It covers all the different types of yogas in a sense. It'll cover the health aspects, but also the wisdom, as well as other aspects of the union with the divine. So here you see it gets into the elements, and there's meditations that he gives, and I'll include this PDF in the links. Talks about different things like the material plane, which is where we normally spend our waking consciousness unless we're drifting off in the astral plane because we're bored or in a meditative state. Spirit mental plane, and it gets into other things as well. A lot of mental training, and this is a handbook of how-to, and that's why I was so drawn to it, and I could not understand it as a 7-year-old, but I kept trying to read it. And it gets into the ether as well, guardian spirits, elemental spirits, elemental larvae, phantoms, the deliberate creation of beings, because we are creators. We can deliberately create beings. That's a big one. And you could see, developing things like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, in other words, developing all the things that are really being turned on right now because of the wonderful sun in the sky and all that beautiful cosmic energy coming in this period of ascension.
Most definitely. And also each person at their own pace. So this is not something that you should rush. It's not something that you should push or, bulldoze your way into. This is information that you take in on a very personal level. It comes to everyone at their individual needs and desires. So as awakenings occur, it has to be at your level. So at your level of understanding. And that's the best way to do this.
Aset, who most of the world knows as Isis, is one of our main guides, and we have been with Isis in other lives as well, many lives. And with her connection to Tehute, which is known to most as Thoth, who some equate exactly with Mercury and Hermes, but is not really the case. Yes, wisdom, keepers of wisdom, keepers of divine knowledge, but not exactly the same being. This is again where sometimes things are incorrect, and it just seems like it keeps snowballing down time as something that maybe is a little bit off gets to be slowly accepted in the field. Like people that study Hermeticism, you'll start thinking that Thoth is Hermes, is Mercury. Now, what we did get, and I asked Cindy, when you look at Mercury, Hermes, what do you see? And you saw that the guides were showing you
a planet, a very large planet that's full of information, and it's an energy that can be given to anyone if you choose to step into that. He's like a messenger. He's giving you all of this information, whatever you're ready for. These are the things that you want to tap into. So they just showed me this very large planet.
Well, large relatively speaking. And again, we know in astrology, Mercury is again communications, it's knowledge, it's so many different things. There is a reason why astrology is what it is. There is a reason why the planets signify what they do, because this is truly the energies that they have. Every planet, every sun, every star is a conscious living being. It's just that simple. They are a conscious living being on a different density. So on a different density, they may be experiencing a reality very similar to you and me. They might think they have 2 arms and 2 legs on this other reality, with a face and with eyes and ears and a nose. When we look up at a planet like Mercury and we just see what looks to be just a rock, not the case. Or if we look up to the sun and we see all sorts of nuclear and chemical reactions going on, and think that's it. No. It's a living being. And actually, the sun is multiple beings. Actually, we all are multiple beings. This is another part of the great mystery that's not always given. Now, when we look to Thoth, Dehute, what do you see?
Now, this was really curious. I got a very, very strong energy. When I was looking at him, I saw darkness, but not in the sense that you would think that it's bad, it's horrible. Actually, it's a darkness in a sense where it's a magnetic energy that is pulling in other information. It's an energy that pulls information to you so you can do with it things that you might not understand right now, but you would understand later. He's very particular about who he gives information to and under what details, because these are what he does are things that causes ripples in dimensions. So you have to be very, very careful when working with these energies, and he's very careful what you receive, but it is almost like a black hole, and I want to call it a chakra because I saw someone in comments mentioning a black chakra, and I've seen that in people, and I've seen it in Mike where they're just pulling in the energy. So this is what he showed me, and he is very serious. He's very powerful, so he's not screwing around. So that's his energy.
And you've seen that he could operate on very high densities.
Oh gosh, this guy, he can do pretty much whatever he wants. It's his playground. This is what he does, his alchemy. He understands things in different dimensions and how to utilize them and put things together in such a way to have a certain effect.
Absolutely, and yes, when she has seen the energy drawing in, that's in the practice of Qigong. We live in a sea of consciousness. This consciousness is life itself, and so when we mentally draw this life force in, we build our light bodies and also the physical body. It can help balance the physical body. So this is part of the mysteries and the mystery school that's there. So you see these 7 Hermetic principles, and these give you an idea, a clue as to what is reality. And we could go again into things like the Shiva Sutras and the sutras, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and discover more and go even deeper. Actually, so deep that you really need to just perhaps meditate on one line for days on end, because there's so much there. The depth is just amazing. But we can learn a lot here. Number 1, the principle of mentalism. All is mind. The universe is mental. And what does that mean? It means that ultimately consciousness is as real as anything. Thought is as real as anything. Max Planck is thought to be the father of modern day quantum physics, and he said, I regard consciousness as fundamental. It's the basic building block of everything. So I regard matter as derivative from consciousness, not the other way around. Our consciousness doesn't exist because of chemical reactions. That's basically BS that is taught by the system. It's the other way around. Matter exists because of consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. There's no other prime mover. This was what was in the beginning. Consciousness. The I am. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. It's all about consciousness. And then we have the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This is something that, again, I've seen fundamentalist mindsets that cringe at this. Oh my God, that's a cult. They're going to go running screaming, ah!
And they do.
Yeah. When all that it means is that we live in basically a fractal universe. And there's more to that. It's even deeper than that. But what we see, again, what we were just talking about with the planets, we look at, Mercury or Mars, and you might think just a lifeless rock. No, far more than that. Far more than that. And then we talked about them finding DNA inside meteorites. Life abounds. But see, it's all about what density we're looking at. If you're talking about what looks to be a apparent lifeless rock on our 3D, on a different density, in the higher densities, it's a being, and life abounds. Mm-hmm. And sometimes planets are apparently lifeless on 3D, but they're loaded with life on 4D.
Mm-hmm. A really good example is like when you were children, if you ever went and hunted for rocks and looked for rocks and just something catches your eye, to the left or to the right, and you find a really pretty rock, you want to believe that, oh, wow, I found a rock. But we need to start understanding that these things find us. These things get our attention from us. There's a conversation going on constantly all the time.
Yeah, and again, I think about how far we came, which we have a lot longer to go. We have a lot more to go to really start to grasp what we knew in ages past, because it's all been washed away from our memory. It's all been hidden from us. So when we look at the patterns in nature, everything's patterns. And so I've been working on guitar and starting to learn guitar like inside and out, and music theory, and understanding, again, everything's patterns. It's all repeating patterns. As above, so below. Look at what we see there with the fetus. We see the sine wave. We see all these reflections in nature, the spiral, everything spiraling out. When we look at the Earth's magnetic field, it's very much the same. It's a torus, and that's the same as the human body. That's the same as the galaxy. That's the same as the universe. And really, you could go down to the same sort of energy with cellular division and cellular mitosis. And if you think about our state of being when we're giving off this signal and we have this torus type shape, and think about time that goes by, oh boy, there's so much to share with you guys. There's so much to share. I want to go in depth a little bit more as we get more verification from the guides and understanding. There's so much in medical Qigong. Mm-hmm. Medical Qigong, again, if somebody has studied Reiki, to me, again, if you're studying Reiki, that's wonderful. That's kind of like grammar school. That's where we're making our letters. We're starting to do basic computations and stuff, and then we go into medical Qigong, and there you're starting to delve into trigonometry and so much more. It's just such a different level, and these things that we have to refer as the mysteries, which again were taught openly to us by beings that many called the Ancient Shining Ones. Why were they called the Ancient Shining Ones? And this is when we were in the Golden Age and the Silver Age, but especially the Golden Age. Well, because they appeared to us as just energy, shimmering energy patterns, but they could communicate to us and they could teach us. So as we go through these densities, and we are heading up into fourth density, and many people that will be alive in, say, 20 years will experience absolutely what it's like to live in fourth density all the time. And even before that time, many people are already experiencing a fourth density experience. And some are able to even experience fifth density now. Those rare ones that can keep their vibes so high. And in this world, unfortunately, that's been just basically maybe in some monasteries or away in the woods somewhere, away from the civilization that so cultivates the lower frequencies in life. But it's going to all change. And so when we see all these things, it becomes obvious that this is how the universe works. This is the pattern, the fractal nature. Well, what's a fractal? Well, it means that when you break it down into smaller pieces, you still have the information of the whole.
Mm-hmm. Right. Everything is of the whole, no matter how small you go. But I do really believe in the information when they talk about, you need the really low lows to experience the really high highs. So these are all, to me, I look at them as gifts, even if it is difficult, even if it is very, very painful. Because of that pain, you're going to experience so much love and pleasure. And eventually, that's where we want to remain in that state where we are happy, we are grateful, we are joyous, we are in a state of just appreciation all around.
Absolutely. So when we look at the principle of vibration, nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. And right there, the fact that, again, as Einstein said, energy is everything. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can only be changed from one form to another. And in fact, it's constantly changing, always changing, subtly, because it's exposed to new energies constantly. Right now, Cindy and I are almost touching, but energetically, our energy bodies are merged at various levels, totally. They're exchanging information. And it's the same thing with, I have the mouse in one hand, and that's giving off an energetic signature. It's penetrating through my hand, and my voice is sending out these vibrations that are in some ways penetrating through your ears right now. When we look to this, we can see that everything evolves. Therefore, to think that the earth, for instance, was created in 6 days and that nothing changes, and we are what we are, and that's all we're ever going to be, is completely incorrect. Mm-hmm. It's not even close to the reality of things, not even close. And so evolution exists. Yes, Darwinian evolution is perhaps a very, very faulty theory, and has a lot of gaps and holes in it on purpose as well, because of course they don't want to give us a true vision and give us the knowledge of how the universe really works. But again, everything is energy with its own frequency. And that frequency is always changing. So we can always change our frequency. Again, if you wish to understand the universe as Tesla, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. If you don't like what you're experiencing, then you could change it, by changing your vibration. And even though we cannot always control what the other is going to do, we can control our reaction to what the others are doing.
So a really good way somebody might ask, well, how do I change my vibration? The simplest way is to make sure you're hydrated, because that gives your cells the information that they need to process back and forth and speak to one another, raising your voltage. So hydration becomes very important. What you eat becomes extremely important, and you can start there.
Absolutely. There's a reason why when we see like Yeshua going out in the desert to fast for 40 days, this was most definitely a yogic practice. Again, fasting, it does more than one thing. It does help the body by basically allowing it to rest and to start breaking down material for energy to use for the body. And the first things it breaks down are things that are cancerous and harmful. That's the beauty of what Mother Nature has imprinted in our DNA and in us. So we're always changing, and we can change our frequency simply by also changing the external stimuli, unplugging the routers at night, turning off the cell phones, avoiding 5G. Of course, we're being blasted with 5G towers everywhere, but we can still, stop that's pulling that frequency towards us. And doing things like saging can change the vibration and the energy in a room. Last night when we saged, it was weird because the sage stick wouldn't stop burning. And this shows me that there was a very heavy, powerful energy in there. And it came back this morning again, and the sage was burning like crazy, because it's like the sage itself knows what it has to do. And it's changing the vibration of the room. You can change the drink that you're going to ingest just by intention. Put your hands on either side of the glass, draw down crystal clear light from above, visualize it coming through your crown chakra, send it out of your hands, and have a loving, grateful feeling. And just basically put the intention that this water is blessed. It's going to bless every cell in my body. It's going to help me purge any darkness. Any nanotechnology that's in me is going to be washed away with this. It's going to fry the nanotech. It's going to cleanse my body of anything dark.
Definitely. If you start to charge your water, infuse it with love, that one act alone, that's really going to change things in your life. And it's really, really amazing and very effective.
Absolutely. And so many people will say, if God, or and some will say, well, why haven't the galactics fixed everything for us? Again, ultimately, Source is love, but Source also wants every fractal of Source, because, again, if we talk about the fractal nature of the universe, and we are fractal beings, Cindy was alluding to this yesterday, there are those among us who literally have the spark of an archangel in them. Literally. And it could be Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel. It could be maybe Metatron, Sandalphon. It could be any of the others out there. There are people amongst us that contain the divine spark from the archangels, or even from other beings, like the beings that we have called the gods and the devas. These very, very high frequency beings. Now, just like we look at the sun itself, and you couldn't encapsulate all the energy of the sun in a human body. You could only take the tiniest portion of it. It's the same thing with these beings. You could view it as taking just a little sample of their DNA, so to speak, and bringing that into being in a 3D body. And this is how the universe works. So why do we see negative things coming? Well, it's part of the next principle that we have, and it's how things move. It's how things progress. It's through the principle of polarity. Now, there's a lot of these will go together, and you'll see that they tie into each other. So we have the principle of vibration, that everything's constantly moving. Everything is energy. It's all just about different frequencies, and how fast and with what quality it's vibrating, changing. Principle of polarity, everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. And if we go back to this, we have a north and a south pole. We are rooted now in medical Qigong and in traditional Chinese medicine. What's called the Taiji pole goes throughout the entire, not just down through the spine and up through the crown chakra. It goes way out into the ether, goes way down into the earth as well. And so it's basically, again, you could look at it as negative and positive. It's the polarities. Again, this is part of it. When you look at the cells going to divide, and two coming from the one, it's the same thing as different polarities that we see. And this is all part of the mystery. Everything has its pair of opposites. It's just like, again, the pendulum, which again we'll get into the next thing that we're going to be talking about too, which is the principle of rhythm. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. And in effect, that will tie into the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. As we can see, positive and the negative. It's the interaction between them. It's, again, the great Tao. The great Tao, which is not just the dark and the light that we see, it's beyond it. And in Taoism, if you could describe and you could name exactly what the Tao is, it wouldn't be the Tao, because it just is. It's beyond any sort of description or knowing. And so that we could view as source. We could understand it from a fractal point of view. We could see it manifest in all the different forms of life all around us. And we have the light and the dark and the light. And again, this interaction also is what gives us the law of karma, the principle of cause and effect. As I sow, so shall I reap. I only get what I deserve. Nothing comes for free. I'm the maker of my own destiny. What I am now and what I face now are the results of my own past actions. Well, how we react to external stimuli as well. What I will be and what I will face in the future will be the results of my present and past actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of information there. And, what I see is everything is in a constant conversation, and you can't really name the exact things that are in conversation. If you're standing in the middle of the forest, everything is conversing, and there's no way to really encapsulate what the conversation is, who is conversing with what. It just something, it's the being. It's the, what I always say, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And to just be in that conversation with Mother Nature is beautiful.
And gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles and qualities. Gender manifests on all planes. And again, we're not just talking testosterone and estrogen and progesterone. We're talking also in the mental. And so when we think that left-right hemisphere, again, this is part of that duality. This is a part of the opposites in so many ways, the masculine and the feminine. The left brain with the right, the logical with the intuitive. And it's all about balance, right? And we learn that from not only Thoth, Dehute, but we learned it from Anubis as well, and Ma'at. And if we go deep into the Egyptian religion and their way of viewing things, the afterlife. Cindy's gotten so much information because she's been in communication with Anubis a lot. And Anubis, again, can feel like a dark energy, can be intimidating. But again, Anubis is in so many ways an archetype. When we go higher and higher and higher up, like we could talk about Thoth Dehute as being an archetype of wisdom. Absolutely. This is wisdom on the highest plane. The scribe of the gods, yes. And, it was with his help that Set Isis basically brought back resurrected Osiris. And so many people will think, well, Yeshua, Jesus, was the first resurrection. And what we got was, Yeshua was here to show us how to ascend. And to ascend even without death. Because ultimately that is the possibility. And perhaps in 20-something years there will be a whole bunch of people that will be ascending without dying in a traditional sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's just information that we get, that we're trying to compile. One of these days we'll write a book, because there's just so much information to be had. But, having a deeper understanding in the golden age about how to treat your body so that you might live longer in essence, have your abilities and your energies be stronger and be able to do more, how to manipulate things in the golden age so that you can continue to do your work in different realms is one of those things that they understood deeply.
Yeah, so that picture of weighing the heart against the feather, what does that really represent? There's so much depth to this that can be mind-blowing, but really it's all about our frequency. It's all about not being pulled into the negative energies. When the negative energies are creating negative scenarios and situations to pull you down. And when we see the heart should be as light as a feather, right? Now, again, I go to the famous battle in which Krishna is talking to Arjuna.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much information to be had in a lot of these books, a lot of these writings. And again, they are designed for us to find our own understanding. So whoever put these writings out there, keeping us in mind, it's for us to learn from. It's not always that literal.
And so this is something that we have to reconcile, and this is not an easy thing. And this is something that personally I've been meditating on a lot. And that's like, where does it become your divine duty, and how do you not be pulled into the muck and the mire? So in the Bhagavad Gita, and if people really want to have a first exposure to the wisdom of the East, I would probably recommend the Bhagavad Gita, because it's not hard to read. It's really not hard to read, and it holds a lot of the truths there. And so Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu, as you could see the 4 arms in the background there. And Arjuna has a vision of Krishna, and he sees the entirety of the universe. And then he realizes that his buddy, who appears to be the same age as him, is something much more. And Krishna says to Arjuna, the only difference between you and I is that I know my past lives. Yeah, I haven't gone through that forgetting that everybody else goes through. He knows. And that's something else that can be taught and is taught to some degree in the yogic and the Buddhic traditions. This is some of that quote unquote hidden knowledge, how to reconnect to our past lives, how to then gather the information. Just think about it. Here I am, I'll be turning 57 in a few months, or not even a few. And if I only had the knowledge I have now when I was younger, and then consequently, if I could live to be, say, 300, holy cow, the knowledge I would have and the wisdom I would have at that point would dwarf all this. This is why they keep our lifespan low. And our lifespan is artificially low. And that is what we have gotten from the guides. We would live much, much longer lives. When you see these legends of Methuselah living 969 years, you can't take that one literally.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there are ways that you can tap into your past lives and gain from this wisdom when it's time for you to wake up and understand that not everything is as it seems. Right there is where you're starting to wake up to different realities, different understandings, and then you have to go back through everything you learned and relearn everything. You have to be willing to let everything go, which for some people they just can't do it, and that's okay, because that's where they're at. But yeah, there's ways to tap into your DNA and start to figure out, what are you made of, but this isn't something that they teach openly. It's nothing that they really talk about openly, because they kind of want us to stay where we're at, because we're controllable like this.
Absolutely. So this speech, what's Krishna doing? And what it is Arjuna is going to go to battle against his own family. And he doesn't want to. And that's a thing that's very, very understandable. And this is where there can be a lot of question marks that come up in your mind, right? Because what did Yeshua say? Turn the other cheek. But then we've gotten direct messages from Yeshua where he's said that you must defend those that cannot defend themselves. So, how do you reconcile turning the other cheek with Krishna here saying you can't not go into battle? You have to go into battle tomorrow. because you have to stop the path that is developing on the planet, which is one that's going to lead down into the darkness. And when Krishna leaves, that's when the Kali Yuga happens. And we descend into the Kali Yuga. Arjuna has a vision of Krishna, and he sees that he's actually Vishnu, and he sees that he's actually been, see all those faces in the background, those are all different lives. And so traditionally, it's thought that Vishnu had 10 lives, but in reality, innumerable lives. As with so many of us, we have so many lives you wouldn't be able to count, because we are eternal. And that's part of what Krishna says to him, is that you're worried right now also, not just because you don't want to harm your brethren, so to speak, but also for your own mortality. But that's when he goes into a very famous speech where he talks about the fact that the soul can't be destroyed. It always is. What you don't realize is that you're having a temporary experience, and your body is nothing but a vehicle. It's a vehicle for this temporary experience. So even if the body is destroyed, you will go on.
Mm-hmm. And so many of these books and understandings, I wish that they were more available here in the schools. Starting in absolutely kindergarten, we should have a deeper understanding of who we are, our energy, how things flow, how things don't flow. And I'm a strong believer in astrology, and using astrology as a form of kind of helping people understand themselves. And I think these are deep sciences that have been pushed to the wayside for the commoners like us, because they don't want us to have a deeper understanding of ourselves. They don't want us to know these things that could really give us an edge in our life if we had deeper understanding. But we're going there now. We've decided as a collective we want our own sovereignty. We want to know more, and that's what we are manifesting.
Absolutely. So we hope that you guys found this interesting. We're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper on the EEARTS side into all this, and go into maybe detailed readings of things like the Shiva Sutras and the Yoga Sutras and many more, and really explore it, because there's so much wisdom that so many people haven't been exposed to here in the West. That is right there, and it's out there, and it's open. And it's just beautiful information that will help you put the pieces together.
Indeed. Source bless and namaste.
God bless. Namaste.